So, welcome back to my channel, Laura the Curious. This is my first ever monthly allotment vlog. So, it's January 2025 and I'm hoping to spend the year doing a monthly update on my allotment. So it'll be what I'm growing, what I'm sowing, what I might be updating on the allotment, so any building that I'm doing or maintenance, that sort of thing. I'll include the highs and the lows, so you'll see where things have grown really well and you'll see where things have failed. Yeah, I'll try and put everything in. I'll try and make it as true to life as possible, I guess. I'm going to stop talking now and we'll get on with the vlog and you can see what happened in the month of January this year, 2025. So off we go on the January plot tour. This is the top of the allotment. It's a bit messy, but it's basically where I keep my compost. Or at least my efforts at making compost. Got some bird feeders in the trees here as well, which is nice. Yeah, so we'll actually make it through the gate to the proper plot now. Oh, Rufus is waiting for us down here. He's going to let us in. Okay, so here we are, plot 8A. So you can see I've got some raised beds in here. So they were just an effort to make things a bit easier for me to work, as well as covering the ground with black plastic. So when I first got the plot, it was really hilly and grassy and brambles, and every year they try and come back. So the black plastic's just an effort to make things a bit easier for me so I can keep on top of everything. I have an oak tree here, which was apparently one of the previous plot holders just literally planted an acorn and it grew. And I know that sounds really silly, but to me that's a real surprise that it's now this big. And it's right by the gate of my plot, so it's a nice thing to welcome you as you walk in. Not looking quite as nice now because it's obviously January, but yeah, when it gets its leaves coming on, it's lovely. Oh, you can see Rufus there in the background. He's joined me today. There he is. Yeah, he just wants to go home. So at the front of the allotment here, we have garlic. You can see in the pots here, just here. And yeah, I sowed those in November. So making our way around, we have a Christmas tree that someone brought up to the allotment wanting to put it on someone's compost heap, but one of my plot neighbours said, just stick it in the ground, see if it grows. So I did, and this is it, maybe 3 or 4 years later. Yeah, and it's green, and every year it gets fresh little sort of lime green shoots that then go the same green as the rest of it, and it's really thriving. We've got the pond here. It's looking a bit sad just here because it's yeah, it's winter, so it'll look a lot nicer in the spring when I've cleared it up and there's actually hopefully things living in it. This is my herb planter and herb bed, but as you can see, it's the weeds have taken over a little bit. In the corner I've also got honeysuckle, which yeah, is beautiful. Again, in the summertime it's lovely. So this is my archway. The plan is that I'll grow beans and flowers up this, so in the summer it's going to be really nice to walk through here into the polytunnel. That's the dream anyway. So yeah, in the raised beds at the moment I've got artichokes in this one, which you can't see, but they'll spring up in the springtime. They'll shoot up and eventually they get as tall as the archway. So yeah, that'll be good. This one, I've just planted some flowers in here, just for a bit of colour in the winter. And we've got a celeriac here, which could probably do with being harvested, but I was up to recently living in hope that they might get a bit bigger, so I haven't harvested them yet. I've had one, it was really tasty, but it wasn't very big. This bed here is the broad beans that I sowed in on the 18th of November. There's maybe one or two tiny little sprouts, but I think what happened is they put down their roots in the autumn, and then they sent up little shoots, and then the frost just got them. But I'm hoping, I've heard that broad beans will start to come back again. So, and if they don't, I've got lots of seeds, so I can put them, I'll re-sow them in the ground when it's springtime. So the rest of the raised beds don't have a lot in them. There's one here that's got some sad looking cabbages in. Yeah, but the others are all waiting for spring and waiting for small plants once my seedlings that are in the greenhouse are ready to go out. So this is my pride and joy of the allotment. It's the polytunnel. So let's go in and check it out. Oh. So not a lot in here at the moment, but there are a few things. So there is some herbs that I sowed in here, or that I planted in here, and some beetroot as well. There's a Rufus again. Hello, Rufus. Good boy. He's being very patient with me. But yeah, the rest of the polytunnel is looking quite bare. And there are things that I could grow in here over winter, but I just didn't get round to sowing things last year. I store things at the top of the polytunnel, which is handy, and I put these like hanging shelves up. So they're just using paracord and trays, like plastic trays, and they're really handy when it comes to the greenhouse getting full of seedlings, and when things are ready to go, almost go out but they're not quite ready, they can come in here where it's a little bit cooler than the greenhouse but a little bit warmer than being outside. So yeah, almost like a bit of a cold frame, I suppose, to sort of harden them off a little bit before they go out. I do have quite a lot of lavender on the plot, so I've got one here. I like lavender because it seems to be fairly hardy, and there's also some pansies or violas. I've planted a row of those along each side of the polytunnel. So the bed on this side, as you can see, is quite bare, apart from another lavender and some violas all the way along. So at the end here is my old lime tree. So I had a lemon and a lime tree as birthday presents one year, but they didn't survive in the polytunnel. I mean, this one is alive, but I think it's the original rootstock now, or I don't know, they were put on a dwarfing rootstock to make them small trees. I don't know the science, but I think that's what happens. But I think this is now the original plant growing back. So I think the one that was grafted on died, and I think this might be the other one started to grow. I'm not really sure, but it looks like a different shape to the other one. But you never know. I'm going to leave it while it's green and while it's fairly alive. I'm going to leave it in here to do its thing until it gets annoying, and then I might take it out. A big lavender bush towards the bottom of it, just here. That seems to be thriving. It seems to like it in the polytunnel because it's giving it that little bit of extra protection over winter. Even though I do have some out in the beds that seem to be okay as well. So let's go and have a look around the rest of the allotment. So I've got a pathway down the side of the tunnel which takes us to the rest of the plot. So we'll just have a wander down here. Underneath this frame is perennial kale. And then this is my fruit area. So I've got 2 apple trees, and I did have 2 cherry trees, but one of them got blown over in the wind and snapped. Haven't had any fruit off of it yet, which is a shame. But it's year 3, and someone tells me that in year 3 you do get cherries, so we'll see. This is my raspberries. I've got these stakes in to hold them. And then we've got currant bushes in the tyres. Yeah. And then more raspberries over here. It's looking very weedy at the moment. That's on my to-do list for February. This is my picnic bench. It was one of the first things that I got on the plot because I knew I'd want somewhere to rest and to perhaps invite people round for a drink or a little picnic in the summer months, and we've done that a few times. And then behind me here is my shed. This was a bargain. It was £25 off Facebook Marketplace, but I'm not too sure how longer it's going to last. It has been here for nearly 5 years, so it's done well. I mean, you can see that is a very wonky shed, and occasionally the roof stays on, but the pointy kind of the main bit of the roof that sometimes blows off and then the water gets in. So yeah, on the next year or 2 a new shed would be good. This is my fence, pallet fence that I cobbled together. Seems to be working okay. It's been here a few years, seems to be alright. And then my IBC tank that I got for £30 off Facebook Marketplace. It's really handy. I store the water from the shed, and it goes along the pipe into the IBC. It's full at the moment because obviously we've been having lots of rain over winter, but it's really good in the summer because I can use that water instead of using the tap water from the mains. We are lucky here that we do have a tap, and I have a really long hose pipe that I can connect up to it, but it's nice to think I can use rainwater as well, and save water where I can. And then my other pride and joy of the allotment is the greenhouse. Okay, let's go inside and check it out. These are still quite happy in the greenhouse. They were sown on the 23rd of November. They're looking happy. So they've been in here since then. They were sown in the greenhouse. And they've been here all through the winter so far. Pretty hardy little things. So I've treated myself to some new gloves. Nice colour, but that's not the reason I like them. They are Briars. These are my favourite kind of gloves at the moment. They fit me really nicely, so they're not too bulky. I can still feel what I'm doing. If I'm doing anything delicate in the allotment, but they've got these grippy bits, so they're good for kind of doing work with as well, if you're doing anything with like wood, and they're also good for pulling up weeds, which is on my to-do list. These are going to help me when you've got some really tough weeds that you're trying to pull out. These are really good to grip them. Before I was using these gloves, I was getting like pains in my fingers because I was having to really grab hold of weeds to get them out. But yeah, love them. I go through a lot of gloves. So my greenhouse thermometer is telling me that last night it looks like the temperature went down to minus 4.2. At the moment the greenhouse is 22.1 degrees and the highest it's been is 37.9 degrees. It's good to have this to give me an idea of when it's good to bring things to the greenhouse. Obviously in the day you can kind of see how warm it is, but it's good to have this thermometer, because then you can see it goes from, or it looks as if it goes from in the 20s in the daytime to -4 overnight. So the little plants that are in here at the moment have been doing very well to withstand that temperature, but they're all looking good. So yeah, happy with that at the moment. Here are the sweet peas that I sowed on the 10th of January, 5 days later, and this is how they look. I've made up a word, planticipation. So I did another video recently about a daily creative challenge that I did throughout January, and one of the challenges was to make up a word. So if you want to watch that video, it's on my channel. If you're a gardener, you might know this feeling well. It's when you get to the start of the year and it's a little bit early to be sowing seeds, but in anticipation of the spring, you can't help yourself but have this urge to start sowing. So I did give in to my planticipation this year and started sowing, but I did do my research and made sure that it's seeds that technically you can sow in January. So some peppers and aubergines, which need a long growing season, and they're in heated space, and some brassicas, onions, and a few herbs as well. What seeds have you sown in January? I'd be really interested to know in the comments below. Yeah, let me know what seeds, what varieties, because I'm always looking out for new ones. So these sweet peas have grown so quickly. I think now it's time to take them to the allotment and put them in the greenhouse. I was a little bit wary to do it because they've been in the warmth, but they need the sunlight. This is why they've gotten so long and leggy, and they're about to flop over. So I took them to the greenhouse and made them their own little separate mini greenhouse as a separate second sort of shield from the cold. I made it out of some old wire and a propagator lid and some plastic. I wanted to share this little moment. It's the 22nd of January and I've just seen the first snowdrop in the garden. The first snowdrop and the first crocus of the year are always exciting for me. It's just the new year coming, and after the sort of darkness of the winter and all of the leaves falling off the trees, it's nice to see new growth and colour coming back to the ground, and just a reminder that even when things seem like they're really dead over winter, there's still life in that soil that's waiting to like burst open in the springtime. It's now the next day and it looks like the sweet peas have been quite happy and safe overnight in their little makeshift greenhouse. They're still looking green and happy. This is an amaryllis that my mum got me for Christmas, and I just thought it'd be really nice to capture its the blooming of it over a series of days. Yeah, they're just fascinating. Every year that I have them, they just surprise me each time. That tiny little brown bulb that you get turns into these massive trumpety flowers just in a few days. So on the 18th of January, I sowed some brassica seeds in some pots. And just 3 days later, the curly kale it's germinated and it's sprouting. It's always exciting to see this, and it's always surprising when it happens really quickly like that, just within a few days. And then just 3 days later, this is what they looked like. They needed the sun. So it's time to get them to their new home at the allotment. I learnt from the Grow Veg channel on YouTube to prick out my seedlings when they're quite small. The reason for this that he gave was that the roots on the seedlings haven't had the chance to get so big that they're going to get tangled together and snap when you try and pull them apart. So I'm filling up my module tray with some compost, and I use a pen to make holes in the compost, which is where all of the little seedlings are going to go. Next, I just squeeze the pot a little bit just to loosen the soil, and then I use just a plant label to separate the seedlings out and help to sort of ease them out of the pot so that I'm not pulling on them and like snapping them. One of the other things I learnt off the Grow Veg channel was to handle the seedlings by the leaves and not the stems, which surprised me because I thought, well, leaves are really delicate and stems felt like they would be more robust, but there's a really good reason for this. If you snap a leaf off of a plant, it will grow another one, but of course if you damage or break the stem, then the plant is pretty much dead. So I just use the same plant label to tease the roots into the hole, and then just fill in a bit of the compost around it and just tuck it in gently, trying not to break the stem or jostle it around too much. And once they're all in their new little home, I put them into a gravel tray and then water them from the bottom upwards. So the kale has spent its first night in the cold greenhouse. It's been in the house since the 19th of January, 18th of January, it's now the 25th. So last night was its first night in a cold greenhouse. Just checking how it is. The ones in the pots actually look pretty happy. They actually look happier than probably when they were at home. I think they were getting a bit leggy there and they needed the light. So they've obviously enjoyed being here where they've got all the light they need. That's just the ones from pricking out. They're just the spares that I've kept, mainly because I'd forgot a label, and the pot is acting as a label at the moment. These guys looking quite happy considering they've just been yanked out of their baby home, and their roots have been disturbed. I'm pretty pleased with that. So here's my garlic sown in November. I got them cheap, 99p per bag, and I got 2 bags. So I've got garlic morado and garlic flavour, and I'm not sure if they're very good varieties, but they were cheap, so I thought I'd give them a go. They've been knocked back a bit by the cold weather, you can see here, but I'm hoping that, you know, because they shoot up more than one leaf, hopefully they'll recover and get a bit stronger soon in the warmer weather. I did try some Boxing Day onions, but I think they've either been too wet or just too cold to have germinated. So I'm going to try resowing these. So I managed to get a harvest from one of the few things I have got growing. I showed this on the plot tour. It's perennial kale, and I think I got the idea to grow this from Jessie from plot 37 on her YouTube channel, and I usually keep it underneath a cover just to keep the birds off of it. During the winter they like to snack on it because it's one of the only things that's growing here. So I'm at home and I decided to cook up the kale with some tofu and beans, potatoes and some leftover katsu curry sauce that Mark had made the night before, and yeah, it turned out really good, really tasty. So this year I took part in the RSPB's bird watch. So you can download a little guide off of their website, and they ask you to sit for an hour if you can, and load up your bird feeder with some bird food, and then watch and see what birds visit the feeders. So unfortunately, I only saw one robin and 2 blue tits. I saw plenty of birds fly overhead, and I heard a lot of birds, but unfortunately you can't count those. It's just the ones that you actually see at once, all at once, coming to your bird feeder. So if you saw 2 blue tits at once, you could count those, but if you saw another 2, you couldn't count those because they might be the same ones. So I have the Chirp-O-Matic app, and I had that on at the same time, and these are all the birds that the Chirp-O-Matic app told me were singing or making noise around me at the time on the allotment. So I can believe that quite a few of these are true, because the allotment's quite close to a river, so quite a few of these water birds probably are about, and quite a few of the birds on those lists as well I have seen at the allotment before. They just didn't happen to be there that day, or I didn't happen to see them that day. So the leeks germinated yesterday, so it's time once again to bring another plant down to the allotment and pop it into its new home in the greenhouse and hope that it survives the cold weather. I have faith in these little leeks. I think leeks are fairly cold tolerant up to a certain degree. We'll see how they get on. We'll pop them in here with their little friends, the brassicas and the peas, and we'll see how they do in a few days. So one of the things that's been on my list since last year to do is to build a fruit cage around the fruit bushes and the fruit trees at the bottom of the allotment plot. And today I went and brought myself a sledgehammer, which I'm quite excited about. It means that I'm going to be able to hammer in the fence post spikes that I bought a very long time ago in the hope of making this project happen. And this sledgehammer is just going to make it a lot easier. I've been putting it off thinking that I might be able to find another way of doing it, but for a £20 hammer, just to get the job done, it was worth spending that little bit of money. So I have these metal spikes that will hold the wooden fence posts that I've got in the ground. So the first job that I was doing today was just to get these spikes in. The hammer made it so much easier. As you can see, I can only push them a certain way by hand. And the next job will be to make the tips of the fence posts a bit slimmer. So I'll use some of my tools and sort of taper them a little bit so that they fit a bit easier into these fence posts. So whilst I had my tools out, I decided to put my bug hotel up that my friend had given me. Hopefully all the bugs will find it a nice cosy home over the winter months. I think a few have already made a home in there because it's been at the allotment for a while. So yeah, it's already being used, but I thought it'd be nice to get it up onto this post, and it's only got one screw in it, so I'll be able to move it easily when it comes to needing to put the netting on. So here I'm just moving some flowers out of some pots. I think some of them are crocuses, maybe some alliums too. I wasn't too bothered about growing flowers when I first got the allotment, and again, because I knew nothing about what I was doing, or at least less than I do now, still no expert by any means. I was not bothered at all. I was almost adamant that I was not going to grow flowers. Couldn't see the point in it. I wanted to grow fruit, vegetables, things I could eat, things I could use. Flowers looked nice and that's lovely, but they weren't going to be very useful to me. Until I learnt, which now seems very obvious, but at the time wasn't, that flowers will help pollinate your crops because they will bring beneficial bugs and insects and bees to your other crops as well as to the flowers themselves. And there are also lots of flowers that can put off pests, or some that will attract some insects, and those insects will then eat the pests. So it's all this fascinating stuff that I've learned that I had no idea about before, having an allotment. So this year, I've tried sowing cucumbers in January. This was tried a couple of years ago by Jessie at Plot 37 on her channel. She's a big inspiration for me. So if you don't follow her already, go and check her out. So she tried doing this, I think, a couple of years ago, and has done it for a couple of years and managed to get cucumbers in March. So yeah, I've given it a go. So here they are. It's now the end of January. Check them out. They've got their true leaves. So the rounded leaves here are the cotyledons. They're the seed leaves. So they're not the true leaves of the plant. The more sort of spiky, heart-shaped leaves, I suppose, they're the true cucumber leaves. So now they've got their true leaves, it's time to pop them on. So I'll be doing that soon into their individual pots. I've sown 3 of them because just to give me a little bit of insurance, I guess, that I've got 3. I'm hoping at least one of them survives, and it would be really cool if I get a cucumber off of one of them, like really early in the year. Yes, I'm going to keep them by this, as you can see, this is the sunniest window in our house, so I'm hoping to grow it up this window. I'll probably put some hooks on the window or find some way of cobbling something together so that it can grow sort of all the way up here. And yeah, I'll keep you updated on my regular monthly vlogs about my growing progress. So yeah, join me again in February on my February vlog, and I'll give you an update on how they're going and whether they're still alive. So if you are new to my channel, it's not a channel that's just about gardening. Laura the Curious is about all of the things that I'm curious about in the world. So the creative projects that I'm doing, gardening, obviously, if you're watching this one, you'll know that. And just things that excite me about the world. So if I go on a trip, I might take you with me and do a little film of where I've been. And yeah, everything that is exciting that I find interesting about the world, I will try where I can to record that and share it with you. So if you would like to subscribe, please do. But if not, then a like and a comment on this video would be really cool. And I hope that I will see you in my next video.